Listen, if you're a teacher, a parent, or you've worked with kids at all, I'm guessing that at some point you've looked a whiny little adolescent in the eyes and said, listen, life's not fair. Now, if I'm being transparent, there's many times in counseling sessions with couples where I just want to look at them and say, hey, relationships aren't fair. Now, that may seem a little bit illogical at the outset because you're thinking to yourself, well, isn't it about give and take? Shouldn't we be fair to each other? Well, here's the deal. Fairness works in business, fairness works when completing tasks, but fairness does not work in relationships, and I'm going to explain why that's true today on Relation Shots. Welcome to Relation Shots. My name's Eric Boot, and if this is your first time stopping by, welcome to the place to get practical relationship advice that actually works in your relationship. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and click the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss upcoming videos. All right, so it's probably true that at some point in your relationship, you've thought to yourself, I'm giving more than I'm receiving from my partner, and you know what? That's not fair. And then your tendency is gonna be, I need to demand fairness because this relationship is not going where I want it to go. But before you do that, I need to remind you of what fairness actually looks like and inform you that you might not want to demand fairness. So what is fairness? Fairness is simply the idea that we should get or receive to the degree to which we give to the connection in the relationship. So if I'm giving, my spouse isn't reciprocating, now I'm justified to withhold my giving because it's not being given back to me. That's fairness. But I don't want you to run down the fairness path yet because I believe fairness will not actually get you what you want in the relationship, but may actually lead to ruin in the relationship. So today I want to give you 4 reasons fairness does not work in relationship. Number 1, fairness produces performance. See, relationships are to be built on love, vulnerability, transparency, and trust. The foundation of a love relationship is attachment, not performance. And when you demand fairness, it starts to become a performance game. Now what I'm doing is I'm checking what they're doing, and if they're not performing to the level that I need them to perform to, fairness demands I do something about that. Here's what the scenario would look like. You're giving and loving your spouse, they're not reciprocating, or maybe they're not giving you the attention you need. They're spending too much time at work, too much time with friends. You feel neglected and underappreciated. So you say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to return the favor. And so now you begin doing your own thing. And now your spouse feels the disconnection even more and says to themselves, they're not in this relationship. Let me just worry about me. And you can see the cycle keeps going and feeding one another until there is no connection left in the relationship. You don't want to find yourself in a relationship based on performance. Fairness produces performance, which will ultimately lead to disconnection in your relationship. Number 2, fairness kills love. Giving to get has no place in a love relationship. Anytime you get into that exchange, love will take a backseat to whatever's going on in the relationship. What you want in a relationship is a relationship based on grace and patience and sacrifice and serving. And when you plant those things in your relationship, the other person will feel accepted and valued and cared for and loved. And in turn, they'll want to reciprocate those things back to you. Fairness will never get you the love that you need, but planting the things that we just talked about is going to take you to a place where you'll get more love than you would ever get operating by fairness. Fairness will kill love every time in the relationship. Number 3, fairness distorts reality. See, here's the problem with ledgers. We're always more gracious towards ourselves and more critical of our spouse. Our tendency will be to minimize the way that we failed our spouse and maximize the way that they've failed us. Whenever you're keeping a ledger, you are unconsciously cheating the system in favor of yourself and against your spouse. So what you'll do is you'll start keeping track of their stuff in a way that's not quite accurate, and you'll minimize or forget some of the things you aren't doing. And then pretty soon, all we're doing is we're arguing about who's right, about who did more and who did less. This ledger will always keep you in a position of counting, of criticizing, and minimizing the things that you do, and none of it's actually reality. And if you're not living in reality, you won't be able to connect the way that you want to connect. And number 4, for those of you that are Christ followers, fairness isn't godly, because God's not fair. Now, aren't you glad that God doesn't deal with you on a fairness system? If he did, that would mean that you need to receive all the consequences for everything that you've ever sown. And I don't know about you, but I don't really want to be on the receiving end of everything that I've ever sown. Psalm 103:10 says, "He has not dealt with us according to our sins, nor rewarded us according to our iniquities." Listen, if we're to love our spouse the way God has loved us, it cannot be on a fairness scale. It cannot be about keeping track of what's been done and what's not been done. It has to be based on loving unconditionally, selflessly, and sacrificially. Now, I know the tendency is for us to want to lean towards fairness in the relationship because we all are afraid that we may be taken advantage of if we don't put our foot down at some points, but there's other ways to get the kind of love that we want. Commit to talking about your needs with your spouse. Commit to giving regardless of whether you ever get back. And when there are issues, focus on the issue itself, not on the fairness of the whole situation. That will move you into a place you want to be in your relationship. Well, I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section below, whether you think this is accurate or you don't think this is a fair video about your relationship. And as always, if you think this would be helpful to somebody you know, consider sharing it with them. Maybe send it over to your spouse who's trying to play fair. And I look forward to seeing you right here next time on Relation Shots.